So I think we're at
Thank you so
MIT
much.
time.
Sorry, thank you.
If you would like to
They're
begin,
not at MIT yet, and they are using our time. What is this?
well, I think you've got people that are ready and willing and happy to speak.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Anas Al-Khatib, hi.
Yes. Hi, Professor. I have a question regarding the difference between HTC and AKPIA in terms of application and the final decision. Like, what are the real differences between the both tracks? I learned from some students that there is nothing different rather than funding, the way, like the source of funding. But I'm really interested to know how some
Are,
person can be under the AKPIA.
are you applying for a PhD or the SMARCS program?
Yeah, the PhD.
The
HTC.
PhD. So there is no difference in terms of the requirements for the application because the Aga Khan student who is going to be admitted to do a PhD is admitted through the HTC program. The funding comes from the Aga Khan program, and you are a member of the Aga Khan community, but your academic requirements are those of HTC. So you're going to have to take their requirements, which are 2 courses, theory, method, and you are not required to take any class in the Aga Khan program, but you are encouraged to take the classes that we give to the SMART students as theory method classes. And those 2 are 2, but you're not required to take them. So you can come and take the theory method of HTC, which is a class that will sort of like familiarize you with your cohort more than anything else, and with the work of one of the professors. They vary from 1 year to the other because it depends on who's teaching the course. Otherwise, your advisor will be one of the 2 Aga Khan professors, and normally it's me. And you build your own program. I mean, the beauty about the PhD program is that it has very little in terms of requirement, and the student is expected to have a better idea or in work with their advisors as to what they want to do and how they want to pursue it. What classes are they going to take? Are they going to take classes only at MIT? Are they going to cross-register with Harvard? What other departments might have classes that are relevant to their topics? Because as you probably know, we accommodate a lot of areas and a lot of periods, which means that between Huma Gupta and myself, we cannot cover everything that the students do. So a lot of our students seek help from other faculty. But yeah, I mean, the only difference is that your advisor will be either me or Huma.
I see.
And your money will come from our budget. But it's the same money that your other colleagues receive, which in their case comes from MIT.
Great, thank you.
Raneem, are you applying for PhD or master's?
Hi, Professor Nasser. I'm applying for PhD. And I don't want to be selfish and take the place, but I'm really like now trying to situate my research within Islamic studies or like just history of architecture in general. And I wanted to hear your insights on that. If you have anything that can help. I know that part of what I want to do has to do with like questions around Islamic architecture and in the period of colonization and then independence.
Where?
Yeah. I'm focusing basically on the Middle East. I'm really interested in Jordan as a geography. So yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, is your question about whether you should apply to HCC or to AKPIA? Is that what you're saying?
No, my question is more if I want to work with one of Aga Khan's professors, does the research has to do with Islamic studies and like Islamic architecture? A question specific, yeah.
No. So, I mean, this is probably also an answer that will benefit Anas as he's evaluating his application. The HTC group is made of 8 faculty. And irrespective of what you are doing, whether it's Islamic or Chinese or European or American, you choose your advisor. And your advisor, you are assigned an advisor when you come based on how we read your application. So if you say I'm interested in Islamic, they will assign you to me. But if you say I'm interested in, I don't know, China, we don't have any Chinese expert. So somebody will take you over as an advisor. But during your first 2 years, of course, work here, you will be familiarizing yourself with the various members of HTC. And the hope is usually you will develop a close working relationship with one of us, and that person will become your main advisor. Traditionally, people who are doing Islamic end up being my advisees, but that's not a requirement. That is, if they decide that there is someone else that they would like to work with, and this has happened in the past. So there are individuals who were admitted on the Aga Khan funding who are not working with me. And actually one of them, I'm not even involved at all in her dissertation. I'm not even a reader on her dissertation. So it's open. And there are people who are admitted through HTC who I become their advisor as well. So it's truly something that depends on how the student build their own program of study and program of research and what area they want to go to, but also who is the professor that they feel the closest to, that they feel some sort of an intellectual affinity with. So you might end up choosing someone that does not deal at all with the Islamic world, but has insights about the topic that you are dealing with from elsewhere, from other times and other places. And you find that this person will be the most beneficial for you as you develop your dissertation, and that person will become your advisor. So it's totally open. But your main advisor will have to be a member of the HTC group.
Yeah.
You cannot take someone from outside. Now, if your topic is, as I said, Chinese, for example, you will need someone who works on Chinese architecture. So that person will become a reader. And in case your topic is so ingrained in the Chinese historiography, that person can become a co-advisor. But you have to have an HCC advisor, both for HCC lines and AKPIA lines. Because AKPIA is only the funding source for the PhD student admitted under the aegis of AKPIA into the HTC PhD program. The SMARCS program is different. They actually will have to have us as their advisors, and they will have to take classes that we design because they get a degree as SMARCS in Islamic architecture. Whereas you get a degree in the PhD program as history, theory, and criticism. Now, it is in the Islamic world, but it's history, theory, and criticism.
I see.
Other questions? Since there's no one else, you're not manipulating the time. The two of you have all the time, so you can ask all the questions that you have on your mind.
Giving some room to people in the Zoom.
Well, tell us about yourselves. Where are you coming from, and what is your academic background?
I may speak first.
You can start. Yeah.
Thank you. So I did my architectural degree, B Arch in Birzeit University in Palestine. And then I moved to the US to do my master's in human rights and the arts in upstate New York at Bard College. Yeah.
And you're done?
Yes, I'm done. I just finished this May.
Congrats.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And
myself.
what would be,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Anas.
Sorry, Rani might go ahead.
Well, Raneem has answered the question, so you go
Okay.
ahead.
I come from the Haitian refugee camp and I'm originally from Jerusalem. In terms of studies, I did the architectural engineering at Birzeit and the human rights and the arts at Bard College, with slightly different research interests than Ranim. I'm focusing on refugee camps in Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria.
So you're sitting next to one another? Is this the same room that we are
No.
looking at?
We know each other, but like I'm gonna be super honest, we're partners.
Yeah.
We like had the same we share the
Right.
same academic trajectory, but we have super different research interests for our PhDs. And like our research work is super different.
Now, we take only one PhD student
Yeah,
a year,
of course.
which means that the other, I mean, if the two of you are together, then the other will have to do something else while in Cambridge.
Yeah, I mean that's like a conversation that we're having, because we both want to like pursue higher education.
Mhm.
So we are like we know that like chances in one universities are like rare, and this is not something we aspire to, but
There are 3 other universities that have PhD programs that one or the other of you might be interested in.
mhm,
I mean, Harvard is just down the road from us,
yeah.
and BU now has a program that you can apply to, and actually BC as well.
Mhm.
Boston College has an Islamic art historian and a PhD program. So, and BU has an expert on refugee camps.
That's Hiba
Hiba,
Najat.
Najaj.
This is Hibal Najad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I suggest that the two of you apply to all 4 programs. That will increase your chances of being in the same town.
That's great advice. Thank you.
Yeah. With advice,
Yeah,
thank
yeah. Rowan, hi.
Hi, I'm Rowan. I went to Pratt Institute for Bachelor's of Architecture, and I'm applying for the SMRHS.
Yeah, SMRKS. Yeah, it's a mouthful of a name, and we've been talking for 40 years about changing it to something a bit more smooth as a name, but we have never managed to do so.
That would that would shorten it. I graduated in 2017 with my bachelor's. I worked at DSR for the past 5 years, and now I'm trying to pursue higher education.
Any reason
Yeah.
why you changed your mind and wanted to go back to school?
So we actually worked on Only Woman Mosque that just opened in Qatar, and that kind of reignited the love that I had for Islamic architecture. Like whenever I travel, I always go to a masjid to see how that masjid is influenced by the architecture around it. And it was something I was always curious about, but I just never pursued it. I thought that I would want to go through design.
Mhm.
I've worked through design, and I kind of want to go into more the theory of it more of.
Mhm. Are you in Qatar now?
No, I'm in New York. Back in New
You
York.
where?
New
I'm
York.
sorry. Okay. Okay.
I live in New York mostly.
But you said that you worked in Qatar, but I mean, you worked
With
in New York
DSR,
for a
yeah.
design in Qatar. Okay.
For Dillard's Cathedral in Rafino.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with them for a masjid that was designed in Qatar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of my best students over the years in the design here is probably high. I don't know if he still is there. What was his name? Charles Courant. Do you know this name?
Yeah, I think he probably still works with DSR.
Yeah. I mean, he must be high up now because we're talking about maybe 10 years ago. He did, and actually more than 10 years ago. 2008, 2009, he did a thesis, a design thesis on Dubai. And he went
Oh.
on his own. He doesn't speak a single word of Arabic. He went on his own to Dubai, spent a month surveying all the high rises of Dubai in the month of July with a
Oh
bicycle.
my God. That's brutal. That's
So you can see the kind of dedication.
that is brutal.
And
Like
did
Qatar, if
really
it's
a
anything like
fabulous
Qatar,
design.
it's horrible.
I know,
It's,
I know.
it was.
I mean, I was in Qatar once in early June, and every time that I ventured outside of the hotel, it was like going into an oven.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds pretty accurate.
So do you have any question about the program?
I honestly just have like I've been out of school for a while, so I just have like a general question, like what is being looked at? Like I know for us, like they ask for was it writing sample, but I worked mostly in design, so I would submit, I guess, my portfolio for design. Is that gonna be like counted against what I'm gonna be applying for at that point? Because
Not really. I mean, if you haven't done any writing, then you haven't done any writing. But most of our courses, most of the courses that you will be required to take are heavy on reading and writing. So is that something that you are ready to do? You can still take
Yeah.
studios, even though it's not listed on the permissible courses, but in certain conditions, certain circumstances, we allow students to take courses that are studio-based. And as a matter of fact, I've supervised a thesis some 15 years ago of someone who went on to establish an architectural firm on her own. And the thesis was about designing mosques for women and how to share the space between men and women on equal footing inside the same space. And since she graduated, I don't know if she had built any mosques, but she has entered into competitions for mosque design. But you know, there are biases, and she's a woman, and a woman entering into competition in a field in which there are mostly men. But she is prospering as an architect, and her firm is between Boston or Cambridge and Los Angeles, and she is between the two coasts all the time.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm telling you this example because even though at the time she was required to take very theoretical classes, she petitioned and took a studio.
Okay.
So you can still take studios, but you need to be able to convince us in your statement of purpose that your desire now is to be research oriented, because that's what this Marks program is about. So if you say, I want to do design, then we usually would advise you to go and apply to the MArch program. But if you are coming back because you are interested in some research, even if it is design based, but it has to be research rather than designing, then you're more than welcome to apply.
Oh, good to know.
Any other question? This is your chance. You still have something like 35 minutes of questions.
Apologize if I mispronounce it, but Yasmin can't come off the mic, but had a question in the chat. I'll read out. I'm interested in including studies of Islamic architecture to my MArch curriculum, especially in the design context. Does the faculty in this program work with MArch students? And I already spoke about the HTC required courses, but I didn't have a design material.
Yeah. So, I mean, to answer Yasmin, the current structure does not allow her to focus on Islamic. She can probably take electives in the Islamic architecture classes, and some people have done that before. I hope you are hearing, Yasmin. So I don't know if there is concentration permission in the MArch for her to concentrate in Islamic architecture. But if there isn't such a thing, it is easily achievable. She can petition for it, and and we can back it up. So there's no problem in there. But there is no existing structure that would allow you to say, I am going to take Islamic architecture as whatever, minor, concentration, something like that. But you can take your elective in Islamic, and you have, I think, 3 or 4 electives in the MArch program, and they can all be classes in Islamic architecture. But if you want to formalize it, then you can petition to say that you are minoring or that you are concentrating on Islamic architecture, and the faculty would assess how many courses you need for that, usually 3 to 4. And then probably you will get a certificate that says that you have a concentration on Islamic architecture. I hope this answers the question. And yes, the faculty in the AKPIA program can be your advisors as an MArch student. You can do your thesis with me. And this has happened, and it's happening now. So and it's not unheard of. And so you can take classes with AKPIA, and you can select AKPIA faculty to be either your advisor or readers on your thesis. Okay, so Yasmin is satisfied with the answer. So let me ask you a question. No, I mean, actually, I know the two of you are interested in refugee camps, or what was your interest, Raneem, again?
Yeah, Anas focuses on refugee camps. My interest is in the history of architectural modernity. Basically, I would like to study modernity from the lens of the domestic space rather than the public, like domestic sphere and the semi-public sphere rather than the public one. That
Where?
basically it. In Jordan, as I mentioned, like I have a specific interest in the Middle East, like Beirut, Jordan, and Cairo.
So you're gonna look like at houses in some location in Jordan?
Yes, this is what I'm considering. I'm basically very interested in a city called Az-Zarqa.
Yeah,
It's
I know it.
yeah, the sister of Amman.
Yeah.
Because I know it's a very under-researched area, and I've also have like some experience working on it.
I suggest that you read the dissertation or the first book, depending on what is easier for you to access, of one of my students, Pamela Karimi, who now teaches at Cornell,
Yes.
and who wrote her dissertation on exactly that, is the modernization as it is expressed in residential and in architecture in Iran, and the introduction of modernity through design of houses and hygiene by American organizations working in Iran at the beginning of the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually one solid dissertation on arguing for a modernity that is coming through residential.
Thank you so much. Very helpful.
Yeah, you know, Professor Nasser, I might be precise about my interest. I started with refugee camps, but my interest now is more detailed. I'm trying to examine genealogies of toilets, infrastructure, and ecology, starting from refugee camps. And my focus is on this is kind of layers or transformations of sewage infrastructure in Palestine, Jordan, and Lebanon, like where the refugee camps were built on the remains of British mandate and French colonialism.
Military camps, yeah. Well, I mean, one of the largest in Lebanon used to be a military prison, Al-Miyomiyeh, in south of Beirut. So yeah, you know, there are a lot of people who are interested in studying refugee camps now at the PhD level. We've had at least one of you or two of you every year apply for a PhD whose focus is the refugee camps, and a lot of them ended up going to Colombia. So I don't know if you have checked Colombia, because for some reason the faculty at Colombia is garnering a reputation that they are interested in refugee camps. So there are 2 or 3 individuals, women actually, who all either did, one of them graduated, and the 2 others are still PhD students at Columbia now. All of them working on some aspect of refugee camps, Palestinian refugee camps, I mean, to be very precise.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm also considering and checking with
Colombia.
Colombia. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, Ranim too, you should do the same thing. So now 3 universities in Boston and 1 in New York City for the 2 of you. And New York and Boston, a lot of people actually usually commute between the 2. So if you end up 1 here and 1 there, it's easy.
That's actually the goal.
Yeah.
Professor Nasser, I have a question in regards to like the assistantship and teaching at Aga Khan.
Mhm.
I've asked this question in the other breakout session, but I'm interested on like how does the relationship between the student and the advisor look like in terms of teaching and research assistantship?
It's teaching is very rare. But the assistants, at least my assistants, because we have a pool of graduate students who have a duty to do TA-ships. And at the beginning of every semester, the director of the HCC program decides on who is going to go where. And there are certain TA-ships that are easy. That is in seminars in which there are no like exams, no weekly papers. The TA does not grade. It's basically the faculty that does. But in undergraduate lecture classes, and I'm teaching one now, for example, my TA does grade, which means that she has to spend some time reading and correcting and dealing with the students. And also she has to teach 1 or 2 sessions in the class. But that's usually a way for her to sort of like try her teaching skills, but it's not a consistent form of interaction. She does not have to teach regularly, and usually it's sort of like we decide at the beginning of the semester, like this is a topic that I know something about, so I will be more comfortable giving a lecture on that. And that's what happens in these undergraduate lecture courses. Again, in the seminars, it varies, but I think the load is much lighter as a TA. You have to be in the class, and sometimes you have to be available for the students in case they have any questions. But most probably you do not present anything in the class. And if there are no small assignments, you do not grade the research papers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to be a student here, you are going to have about 4 years of TA-ships. And I would say every year you will serve in 1 easy and 1 difficult class. There are classes that are larger and you will have to grade much larger, and you will have to give 1 or 2 lectures in a class. And as I said, there are seminars in which the student is required to do very little, maintain the website, provide the reading, stuff like that, but very little work really.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't say that in front of Kiteri, because she might now come back and say, hey, you're taking a whole TA and you're not asking her to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. I posted just the general information from architecture. It does vary from discipline group to discipline group,
Yeah.
with HTC having much heavier, grading loads with large papers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a question in the chat. Can a BR graduate do the PhD directly into the Islamic architecture and urbanism concentration without having any prior experience in the field?
Where can a BR graduate, is that do the PhD directly in Islamic architecture and urbanism? Is that the question? Yeah, without
Yes.
having any prior experience in the field. Now, there is nothing that says BR graduate cannot apply for a PhD program, but you have to imagine that you are competing with people who have a master's degree, which means that you are competing with people who are much better prepared. And we take only 4 students, 1 in the AKPIA program and 2 in architectural history and 1 in art history, of a pool of about 80 to 90 applicants. So the competition is really, really heavy. So the BR might bring you down, but might not. We did have in the past people who came to us with only a bachelor degree, but in most cases, they were people with a bachelor degree in art history. So they were people who were trained to write, because at the end of the day, HTC is an intellectual program, is not a design program. So if you are going to come to an HTC degree, you're going to have to be able to read and analyze and weigh evidence and write convincingly. So that's really the only drawback of just having a BR. But otherwise, whether you have any background in the field or not is irrelevant. You can come in here without having had any class in Islamic architecture and do a PhD in Islamic architecture. It's the BArch itself that might be a problem in terms of the competition. That's it. Is there any other question in the chat? No. Okay, anyone has a question? The 3 of you that are there. You know, I cannot generate questions because, I mean, unless you have something general and you want me to give an opinion about it, but otherwise I have to wait for you to say, I'm curious about that, or I want to know about this.
For the PhD, you said only 1 person is accepted. Is that the same thing for the master's program?
No, masters we take between 3 and 4 every year.
Okay.
It all depends on funding, by the way, and places, because I don't know if you noticed, but we are extremely generous in the funding of this Marks program. The PhD, we are generous, but every PhD program is generous, so there's nothing unusual about it. But in terms of this Marks program, we are among the top funders in the world of architecture. When I was a student, my dad had to pay and I had to work. Now you don't have to. You can actually just basically devote yourself to your studies.
That's for the master's?
Masters and
Okay.
PhD, both.
Oh, okay.
Master's students are covered now at around 70 to 80%. Tuition and living expenses. There was 0 support when I was a PhD student. 0 living expenses. They supported only, they defrayed some of our tuition, and ultimately actually they paid the whole tuition.
Can you give like a general idea of what's the courses that is for the master's program? Is it like you take regular courses and then you start your thesis research?
Yes. I mean, your thesis research depends on how much you know about the topic beforehand. So you can come and say, this is what I'm researching, this is what I've worked on. Let's take you as an example. Let's assume that you are interested in women's spaces and religious structures. This is something that you have worked on and you want to explore it by looking at other examples in different places in the world. So you will sort of like start to define some of your courses around that. Let's say, for example, that you are curious about Indonesia, and there is a course at Harvard that speaks about modernity in Indonesia. We don't have any course at MIT on Indonesia. You go and take that course and you write your paper for that course on mosques of Indonesia in the 20th century. That would be bolstering your research towards your thesis. The in terms of the requirement, you're required to take one class with me, one class with Huma Gupta. Both of them are considered to be theory methods. And then you are required to take a colloquium, which is basically a course that has practically no requirement. Write something very, very short, but it's a means for you to get to know the department and to get to know the cohort in the SMRKS program. So you will meet the students through that colloquium. It meets once a week for an hour and a half. And then you are required to do pre-thesis and thesis preparation. But these are all independent studies in the case of the AKPIA program, because we do not teach a pre-thesis class. The class is too small to warrant an actual formal class for it. In the other programs in BT and in computation, and I think in urbanism, but Kateri can correct me, they have a preparatory class. So all the students will take a class to prepare their thesis. In our case, it's done on a one-on-one basis. So when you think about it, the expectation is that you are going to take between 12 and 16 classes while you are in the SMARCS program, of which only 3 are required, and then 2 are preparation, so that's 5. So you have about 7 or 8 courses where you develop your skills in whatever area you want to go in. That you do usually in consultation with your advisor. So from the get-go, you come to your advisor and spend some time with them, telling them this is what I'm interested in, and these are the courses that I'm interested in, and you discuss the courses, and then the advisor would approve what courses you're going to take, and sort of like watch over you and say, how is this happening? How is this class developing? How are you doing in that class? And then perhaps actually, why don't you consider this area or that area for the next semester? Students, depends, but some students sort of like feel that the second year is where they are going to do their thesis, and they devote most of their time in their second year for their thesis. I have a different policy and a different approach to it. I don't think that the thesis deserves a year. So in my opinion, you should take classes still in areas that you are interested in, or areas that you want to go into later in the future, or areas that MIT excels in and you might need in your future professional or research life. So I don't think that one should sort of like freeze oneself and devote all of one's time and energy in order to write a thesis. Because in my view, the thesis is only a dignified seminar paper. I don't see it as a book. Some students feel that the thesis is sort of like what defines them. I think that's a mistake. And I think that's a mistake simply because you are in one of the best institutes in the world. To basically spend your year researching on your own, because this is what you do for a thesis, without taking classes, without benefiting from the knowledge of someone else, is a waste of your time. But that's only my own policy. Some colleagues actually feel that students need to devote more time for their thesis because either the students are weak or the topic is not familiar to them and they need to do more research, or they are lazy, whatever. I mean, whatever reason. I feel that students can and should write a thesis in one semester.
Professor Nasser, I have another question. First of all, I really agree with the privilege that we have now as students by having funding, especially in this time that we're living in the world. Being in academia is a privilege. But my question is, in terms of methodology, I know that programs in architectural history tend to like focus on historical methodologies such as archival work, oral histories, and all of this. Is there any room in MIT in the architecture program in the PhD for like other methodologies, or if
like what?
Like ethnographies, participant
Yes.
observation? Yeah.
Ethnography, definitely. And now there is a new term that is running around and everyone is extremely excited about it, storytelling as a methodology. So, so yes, there is room for ethnographic research. There is room for archival research. There's room for primary source research. And there is room for actually synthetic research that uses secondary sources in order to construct a new argument. As you know, the PhD's aim is to produce new knowledge. That's the whole idea of doing a PhD.
Yeah.
Supervised new knowledge in preparation for you to be an independent thinker to keep on producing new knowledge. That's the whole song behind a PhD program. So you come to do a PhD because you think that there are individuals who are advanced or who are ahead of you who can teach you how to actually develop your own voice. But the PhD is a way for you to develop your own voice, your own method, your own approach. And you do that by learning how others have done it and by basically checking and testing and seeing which one is more appropriate to you or which one is more appropriate to the kind of material that you are dealing with. So in the case, again, refugee camps, of course, there are no archives. There's no place where you can go and say, who wrote about the refugee camps in 1798? There is no such thing. So you're going to have to go and actually spend some time in the camps themselves and collect information from the individuals, or maybe go to the UNRWA and ask them for their archives, wherever those archives are, before Israel burns them down all. So maybe you could actually collect some of that information and use it. Or it is possible, actually, in the same case in here, and this is where storytelling becomes very important. Let's assume that there is this sort of like elderly who had lived in Haifa until 1948 and then ended up in Heisha camp, and he's now 90 years old, and you spend some time listening to his stories, and you collect these stories, and these stories will be the kernel around which you are going to build the history of the camp through the stories of one individual. Now, that's a new method. That's a method that did not used to be considered historical because it depends only on the recollections of one individual. But now, with the rise of new generations of historians who are coming from underprivileged areas, who are coming and saying there are no archives for the areas that we are interested in. So we need to be able to create our own archives. And a lot of my students are using the theoretical writing of Sadiya Hartman from New York, who, of course, actually is the one that spoke about historical fabulations. And in her case, it was African-American archives are extremely few and sparse and probably even biased. So how do you reconstruct the life of the African-American, especially in the past, in the 17th, 18th century? So she does exactly that. She actually collects stories of African-Americans and uses them in order to construct some sort of a window into the social life of the African-Americans, slaves, and at the beginning of their liberation. So yeah, we are open. And I have to tell you that HCC is one of the most open-minded programs in terms of what students can do and cannot do. Just convince us.
That's actually very exciting because speaking with other schools, they're a little bit more conservative in terms of methodology and what methodology defines a historical research and what does not. So
I mean, if you end up here, you will see from the theory method classes how sort of like extremely ephemeral and expansive our notion of method is. Is that it? Anyone has any more questions?
There's a new one in the chat. Could the writing sample be professional write-ups on urban topics or heritage buildings and published as co-authors?
Wait, where is it?
If you scroll
Is
all the
that
way
the
to the
last?
bottom,
Is that the last one?
yes.
Could the writing sample be professional write-ups on urban topics or heritage buildings and published as co-authors? Yes, it can, but it would be good if you can say what your role is in the publication. Are we talking about SMARCs or PhD? Because for a PhD, you really do need to have some writing sample that is yours, and that shows the ability to analyze. Sparks, then the answer is absolutely yes. Just say that my role in that text was to do this or that. All right.
Maybe since no one is asking, I'm gonna use all the time. Do you have an advice to Professor Nasser on how to really stand out as an applicant? I know that you receive maybe sometimes 150, sometimes 200 applications. And if you have an advice on like, what are the things to focus on in your letters, personal statement and SOP to like really stand out in this large amount of numbers of applicants?
I mean, standing out is more of like a beauty pageant, sort of like I do not expect you to stand out in the sense of sort of like at first look, one looks at we never have 100 or 200. We're talking about 80. So
Okay.
an 80 pool of application, it's not really who stands out. I mean, the weeding out usually is who is poorly prepared. And for that, we need to read the material. So I would say that what really would define you better than anything else is a statement that is cohesive and that is balanced between speaking about yourself and what you have done and what you are interested in and what kind of background, intellectual background, has helped you develop your questions. So let's say, again, you are interested in the city of Zarqa. And what is the city? So that takes you into what cities are, how cities develop, how cities were modernized, what is the infrastructure in cities. Who have you read and what has inspired you to think about cities in a certain way? And why have you read that? Background, where did you come from? What have you studied before? What brought you to the point where you are in today? So if that is cohesive in the statement, that usually is what keeps you alive for the second round. Second round will be just excellence. Who actually is producing or who actually is presenting the best argument backed up by the best writing sample, backed up by the best letters of recommendation, and no C's on their transcript.
Amazing. Very helpful. Thank you.
All right, if there are no more questions, I will wish you all good luck in your applications and in whatever you are doing now. And hopefully we'll see some of you next year.
Hopefully.
Thank you. Thank you
All
so much.
right,
Thank you.
take care, everyone.